Hello. Today we are going to talk about factors and factor pairs of a number. Let's begin with the word problem. Jamie is having a party. She invited 3 friends to her party. She wants to give each friend a goodie bag with 5 Hershey Kisses inside. How many Hershey Kisses does Jamie need? So if we have 3 groups for her 3 friends and 5 in each group, that's 3 groups of 5, or 3 times 5. 3 and 5 are the factors that multiply to give you the product, or 15. So 3 times 5 is 15. For this fact triangle, 3 and 4 are the 2 factors that multiply to give you 12, or the product. Product is just a fancy way of saying the answer to a multiplication problem. So what is a factor? A factor is one of 2 numbers that you multiply to get a product. So on this fact triangle, 5 and 8 are our 2 factors. They multiply together to give you 40, which is the product or the answer to 5 times 8. That star can be used to represent multiplication, and the slash can be used to represent division. Sometimes we have factor pairs. Factor pairs are like shoes. They come in 2s. So 3 and 4 are a factor pair for 12. We use the word and when we're referring to a factor pair because we're talking about a pair of numbers that multiply together to give you another number. So 3 and 4 are the factor pair for 12 because 3 times 4 is 12. If we had 12 blocks and we made all of the possible arrays, we would come up with different arrays that look like the ones at the top of my screen. We could have a 12 by 1 or a 1 by 12, which means that 1 and 12 are factor pairs for the number 12. You can have a 6 by 2 or a 2 by 6, which means 2 and 6 are a factor pair of 12 because 2 times 6 is 12 and 6 times 2 is 12. You can also have a 4 by 3 or a 3 by 4, which means that 3 and 4 are also factor pairs for the number 12. So let's try it for the number 18. We're going to think about all of the factors, factor pairs, and equations that would give us 18. Notice I have a factor rainbow here. We're going to use this to help us come up with all the possible factors and factor combinations for 18. So I'm going to start with 1 and 18. I always like to start with 1 and the number so I can work my way inside. That means that 1 times 18 equals 18, and 18 times 1 equals 18. That means the factor pair would be 1 and 18. Remember, we use that word and when we're referring to a factor pair. Let's try the number 2. Yes, 2 is a factor of 18 because 2 times 9 is 18. So our equations would be 2 times 9 equals 18, and 9 times 2 equals 18. And our factor pair would be 2 and 9. 3 times 6 also equals 18. So 3 times 6 is 18. And our turnaround fact of 6 times 3 equals 18 would also work. So our factor pair is 3 and 6. And there are no other numbers that multiply to get you 18. The number 16 is an interesting number because we would have 1 and 16, 2 and 8, and then 4 multiplied by itself, 4 times 4 is 16. 16 is a square number. So 4 times 4, we kind of look at this as the crown. So it's a special number where 4 and 4 would be that factor pair. So this would be 1 times 16 and 16 times 1, 2 times 8 and 8 times 2, and 4 times 4. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to write out our factor pairs. And we would say 4 and 4, and that would just be one equation. You don't need to do the turnaround fact for 4 and 4 because it would be the same. Our final factor pair is an interesting one for the number 13. The only way you can get to 13 is by multiplying 1 and 13. 13 is a special kind of number. So our only equations are 1 times 13 equals 13, and 13 times 1 equals 13. So the number 13 only has 2 factors and only one factor pair, which is 1 and 13. So remember, you can use a factor rainbow to help you come up with all of the possible different factors for a number, and use factor pairs come in twos, in order to write down all the factors as well.